Paradise Lost, the story of Nauru. Picture, if you will, a tiny island in the middle of the vast Pacific Ocean. A place so remote it feels like a world unto itself, untouched by the hustle and bustle of modern life. Now imagine that island is covered in lush tropical rainforests, surrounded by pristine beaches and home to a vibrant coral reef. The waters are crystal clear, teeming with marine life, and the air is filled with the sounds of exotic birds. Sounds like paradise, right? Well, that was Nauru once, a true gem in the Pacific, a place of natural beauty and tranquility. This tiny nation, barely a speck on the map, has a story that's both fascinating and deeply, deeply depressing. It's a tale of how paradise was lost, how the island's natural wealth was exploited to the brink of destruction. It's a story of boom and bust, of exploitation and neglect, and it's one that, frankly, you're not going to want to miss. From its days of unimaginable wealth due to phosphate mining to its current state of environmental devastation, Nauru's journey is a cautionary tale for us all. A dot on the map, Nauru's isolation. So where the hell is Nauru, you ask? Good question. It's about as far away from everything as you can get. Nestled in the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, Nauru is a speck of land that many have never even heard of. Seriously, look at a map. Found it? No? It's not surprising. That's because it's bloody tiny. We're talking 8 square miles tiny. To put that in perspective, it's smaller than many cities' central parks. Surrounded by thousands of miles of open ocean, this little island nation is about as isolated as it gets. Imagine being in the middle of nowhere with the nearest landmass hundreds of miles away, and I mean isolated. You can't just hop on a quick flight to Nauru. The island has one tiny airport, and flights are infrequent and often expensive. It's a logistical nightmare which, as we'll see, has had some pretty significant consequences for the island and its people. From limited access to goods and services to the challenges of maintaining infrastructure, Nauru's isolation shapes every aspect of life here. Small but mighty, the third smallest country. Nauru holds the prestigious title of the third smallest country in the world. Think about that for a second. You could walk across the entire island in a day. Everything is within easy reach, from the government buildings to the local grocery store. But don't let its size fool you, because Nauru's story is anything but small. It's a story that, unfortunately, gets lost in the vastness of the Pacific Ocean, far from the headlines and the spotlight it desperately deserves. 30 kilometers of contradictions. Now, you might think that a country this small wouldn't need many roads, and you'd be right. Nauru has a grand total of 30 kilometers of paved roads. That's it. You could drive across the entire country in about, 20 minutes? Maybe less if you're feeling reckless. These roads, my friends, tell a story. They're a symbol of Nauru's brief moment of prosperity when phosphate mining brought in a flood of cash. But they're also a stark reminder of the island's current state of disrepair and neglect. Chapter 4. A capital without a capital. Here's a fun fact for you. Nauru doesn't actually have a capital city. I know, right? It's mind-boggling. The closest thing they have is a district called Yaren, which serves as the administrative center. But there's no bustling city center, no grand parliament buildings, none of the things you'd normally associate with a nation's capital. It's just another quirk in the strange and tragic tale of Nauru. Chapter 5. The Unwelcoming Paradise. Remember that whole paradise thing we talked about? Well, good luck trying to visit. Nauru is one of the least visited countries in the world, and it's not hard to see why. Getting a visa is like trying to win the lottery, and even if you do manage to snag one, there's not a whole lot to do when you get there. But that's not entirely a bad thing. In fact, Nauru's isolation has, in a strange way, protected it from the worst excesses of tourism. Chapter 6. Disarmed and Defenseless. Here's another interesting tidbit about Nauru. It doesn't have an army. Nope, not a single tank, fighter jet, or even a grumpy old general yelling at pigeons. For its defense, Nauru relies entirely on Australia, which, when you think about it, is a bit of a gamble. It's like entrusting your life savings to a particularly unreliable roommate. You hope for the best, but you're also acutely aware that things could go south very, very quickly. Chapter 7. An Island of Ill Health. Now let's talk about something a bit more serious. Nauru has a rather unfortunate distinction. It has one of the highest obesity rates in the world. And I'm not talking about a little bit of holiday weight here. We're talking about a full-blown health crisis. The reasons for this are complex and multifaceted, but they're rooted in a combination of cultural factors and a heavy reliance on imported, processed foods. Chapter 8. From Riches to Rags. Believe it or not, Nauru was once the richest country in the world per capita. That's right, this tiny island nation was absolutely rolling in dough. And what was the source of this incredible wealth? Bird poop. Well, technically it was phosphate, a mineral found in bird droppings that's used in fertilizer. For a brief shining moment, Nauru was the envy of the world. But, as we all know, what goes up must come down. Chapter 9. The Scars of Exploitation. The phosphate mining that brought Nauru such wealth also left it utterly devastated. The once lush island is now scarred with massive open-pit mines, leaving the interior barren and uninhabitable. It's a stark reminder of the environmental cost of unchecked greed, and it's a sight that will stay with you long after you've left Nauru. Chapter 10. A Descent into Poverty. When the phosphate ran out, so did Nauru's fortune. The country spiraled into economic freefall, leaving its people in a desperate situation. It's a classic tale of boom and bust, but on a scale that's hard to comprehend. And it's a stark reminder of the dangers of relying on a single finite resource. Chapter 11. A Prison in Paradise. In a desperate attempt to stay afloat, Nauru made a deal with the devil, or more accurately, with Australia. In exchange for much-needed cash, Nauru agreed to host an offshore detention centre for asylum seekers. The conditions in this camp are, to put it mildly, horrific. Human rights abuses are rampant, and the mental health of the detainees is abysmal. It's a stain on both Nauru and Australia's conscience, and it's a situation that demands our attention. Utro, a call for justice. Nauru's journey from paradise to prison is a sobering reminder of the devastating impact of exploitation and neglect. Once a lush and vibrant island, Nauru was known for its rich phosphate deposits which brought wealth and prosperity to its people. However, this prosperity was short-lived, as the relentless extraction of resources led to environmental degradation and economic collapse. The island's landscape, once teeming with life, now bears the scars of this exploitation, a stark contrast to its former beauty. As we conclude our exploration of this island nation, we hope to raise awareness about the importance of human rights and dignity. The people of Nauru have faced immense challenges, from environmental destruction to health crises, and now the plight of refugees detained on their shores. These issues are not isolated, they are interconnected and reflect a broader pattern of neglect and exploitation that affects vulnerable communities worldwide. The story of Nauru is a cautionary tale, a stark reminder that even in the most remote corners of the world, the consequences of our actions have a profound impact. The island's history serves as a powerful example of how unchecked exploitation can lead to long-term suffering and hardship. It is a call to action for all of us to consider the ethical implications of our choices and to advocate for sustainable and just practices. It's a story that should stay with us, prompting us to demand better for the people of Nauru and for all those who have been marginalized and forgotten. By learning from Nauru's past and present struggles, we can work towards a future where justice, equity, and respect for human rights are at the forefront of our global community. Let us stand in solidarity with Nauru and all who suffer from the consequences of exploitation, and strive to create a world where such injustices are no longer tolerated.